Welcome to The Pilgrim, the podcast for Jesus followers like you who wants tips and advice to grow their faith in the ups and downs of journeying through this world. I am O.O. Living and I'm your host. If you're honest with yourself, you don't want to wait. That's one of the last things we want to do with our time. Waiting for many of us carries the idea and feelings of passivity and stagnancy and a time waster. And depend on what we're waiting for. Waiting can prompt anger, frustration, even hopelessness. So when we are told to wait by God, most of us subconsciously hate waiting for what we want. Well, this situation has been worsened by our modern society. We want everything done quickly, and new technologies constantly springs up to meet those demands and encourage our impatience. We are not used to waiting, and the more our technology caters to our immediate desires, the less we feel willing to wait. Such is our dilemma as Christians in this age. Why modern society makes everything attempt to make our life easier and faster, God works on a different pace and timetable. In his mind, nothing is wrong with waiting. In fact, waiting can actually be a positive good that he often uses to make us more like his son. When we wait, something is actually happening while nothing seems is happening. God uses waiting to change us. The story of Adam and Eve is a story of rebellion against God. The moment they believed that God didn't have their best interests at heart, they decided to go ahead without God and do what they wanted. They become in effect their own God. Too often this is exactly what we do today. When God tells us to wait, we don't trust him, but we go ahead and find ways to accomplish what we want to happen. And this tendency to push God aside goes against his plan for us. It creates distance in our relationship with him. It causes us to get into trouble that brings pain. God wants us to learn how to follow him and put down our demanding selves. The one that always tells us what to do. One way God helps us to do this is to tell us to wait. That miserable, uncomfortable, sometimes painful state of silence is one of God's most powerful tools to set us free. That is, if we are willing. And normally, we don't start out willing to wait, I must say, but our natural response to waiting is often anger or doubt. Fortunately, God is gracious and merciful, understanding our tendencies. Simply feeling deep, complex emotions in waiting, especially for significant things, is not necessarily sinful in itself, but we can decide where those emotions take us. So, we can decide to exalt those feelings. We might act on them by taking matters into our own hands, or perhaps we will not act, but we will make an idol out of the good for which we are waiting. Every passing day is another log on the fires of bitterness, impatience, ingratitude, perhaps even resentment against God who won't give us what we want. Or by God's grace, we can choose to wait as he intends. Waiting is often a crossroad of two choices. It's either we are obeying God or we obey ourselves. We have the choice then to take a deep breath, let go of what we are holding on to, and let God be God in our lives. Certainly, only one of these options will actually bring joy to us. As we seek to accept and rejoice in God's handling of our lives, including his timing, we can ask God to work in us two main things so that our waiting is not in vain, and that would be humility and trust. Yes, sometimes When I have found myself getting impatient and upset, I remind myself that God is the one who put me there. It is God's will for my life at that moment. So what I will do is that I will recognize that my life is not my own. Because at heart, that is what humility is. It is coming to realize that we are a breath and God owes us nothing. And with such attitude, there is dependence on God. And then comes trust, which means believing at least two things about God: that He is powerful and that He is loving. And believing God is powerful means that we know He is in charge of what's happening. Things are not whimsical or are not out of His control. He is able to both help us and change things. Much of our anxiety in waiting is because we forget that God is able to make all grace abound to us, as Paul says in 2 Corinthians 9:8. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are at the mercy of your God. And if God is for you, who or what can be against you? Believing God is loving means that uh, there is care and purpose behind all that He does. It means that He is faithful to help us right this very moment and good enough to bring us blessings tomorrow, later. It means that His judgment and timing is always perfectly good. And true, He owes us nothing, and yet He has promised us everything we need. And one of these promises is found in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, that He said that we should seek Him first, and all the things we need will be added to us. Even during that long road of silence, God cares deeply for us. We can be like David and remind ourselves, wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and be courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. Psalm 27:14. Some of the great figures in the Bible, men like Abraham, Joseph, Moses, and David, had to wait for many years for God's promise to be fulfilled. Everything that happened in the meantime was used to prepare them inwardly and outwardly for the blessing. Then, when they reached their promise, they were blessed beyond measure. And that is what God is actually doing in our lives today. He's using the circumstance we are in, the situation that we are in. He's using everything to prepare. In fact, the Christian life as a whole is a waiting. It's a preparation. We've been prepared for the great day. We've been prepared for the second coming of Jesus Christ. So when God invites us to trust in His goodness today, and His faithfulness tomorrow, He's actually inviting us for Him to actually conform us to the image of His Son. So let us surrender control to Him. Let us do that. Because surrendering control to Him is the main route to experience His love and peace. It unites our hearts with His. It creates a level of maturity and character that will take us into the future. And it enables us to enjoy His future blessings all the time and all the more. Isaiah 64, verse 4 says, "For since the world began, no ears have heard, and no eyes have seen a God like you, who works for those who wait for Him." That's the truth I want you to remember today. God is working for you as you wait for Him. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you find it helpful, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast or search our growing archive for more talks on the Christian life. I remain your host, O.O. Living. See you next time.